So I've been seeing a lot of buzz online about this film because apparently Netflix paid $17 million for the rights to it from Sundance. And I don't know if it's just me when you hear that, but I feel like I'm in the wrong profession. I gotta start writing.
You had mentioned that we might be playing some games tonight. Do you still want to play games?
Yeah, we'll play games tonight.
So if I was going to use a single word to describe It's What's Inside, I would use the word chaotic. But not chaotic in the sense that you can't follow this movie or it's confusing or anything like that. Chaotic where it feels like the guy who wrote this film was up on a 48-hour bender without sleep and they do way too much cocaine. That's not even a bad thing. I think it's actually better that this whole movie just feels like a giant drug trip you're on where you really don't know what's going on. Very artistic, very chaotic, very colorful. This is a movie that clearly has a vision and they're trying to tell a point in the form of a horror comedy satire. I think it's more satire than the other two, but the point remains. And it's definitely dedicated to that vision. So if you like movies that are very weird, very out there, they're clearly saying something, but the way they do it is very dedicated. They do not hold back. This might be the movie for you. It is very creative. And when I describe this film, I'm going to be as vague as possible and very bland in the way I describe it. I always give a warning to this. It's one of these movies you probably want to know as little as possible going into it. So I'll be very vague and I'll tell you just the bare minimum. You have this couple right off the bat. They're clearly a dysfunctional couple. They're going to this party to see friends they haven't seen in ages. And right off the bat, all of these people, very weird, very unlikable people. When you get there, this guy is introduced shortly after. They haven't seen this guy in ages. They tell you about this conspiracy for why he hasn't been there. I'll let you find that out on your own. But this guy shows up and he has a suitcase. Now this next detail may be bordering on very minor spoiler territory, but I think it's important to know what this movie's about. He opens the suitcase, and in the suitcase is an electronic device where the people at the party can switch bodies. So the point of this film is they're all going to play these party games. They're going to switch bodies with one another, act like one another. The point of the game is to guess who's in whose body. And this movie is clearly doing a couple of things. It's trying to be funny, it's a satire, but also doing commentary on what it would be like if you could be in another person's body, being okay with who you really are. There's a lot of stuff being said in the form of a very fun and interesting chaotic party game film that I just thought was pretty enjoyable to watch. Now, starting off with what I really liked about this film, going right back to what I said a minute ago, this movie is very artistic, very out there, very wild. This is a film, the way it's transitioned, it's edited, the color of the film, it is beautiful to look at. It's just clearly oozing with style. Whoever wanted to tell this story clearly had this original story, and they had a vision for how they wanted it to work, and I always respect and appreciate that. This is a film, when you watch it, you can tell whoever did this has an eye for blending this film together. It makes the experience a lot more original and unique than it could have been otherwise, because the concept itself is not too wild, just the concept of body swapping, but done in the form of a party game. It really reminded me of that movie from a year ago, Talk to Me. It's got that same vibe to it, where they're taking the premise that we've seen a couple of times and they're making it a lot more unique and a more modernized version in a way that you could kind of imagine people would handle this if they had the rights to do this. So I thought it was pretty original in that regard. I thought the way it was filmed, very unique. All of that stuff really stands out to make this movie a lot more fun than it could have been otherwise. Need to point that out. This is another one of these films too that as it keeps going, it just keeps growing and growing, and I really like that. You know, it starts off with a pretty basic premise of this party game, and then as it keeps growing, it just keeps getting more ludicrous and more batshit crazy things start happening. More real life scenarios are presented to these people that would probably come up if you ever partook in a game like this, and I just thought it kept the building on itself really well to make the anxiety and the pressure of this situation mounting really grow. And again, when you have this type of a basic premise and you're trying to explore these topics, it can get really pretentious. It can fall off really quick. I don't think this movie suffers from pacing. I think this movie just grows as it goes. I was more engaged. This is a film that's clearly talking about self-identity, who we are, like what it would be like to be in another person's body. There's like 100 lessons you could take from this film, just in the form of a comedy. And I think this film is great because it works as an actual party game mystery more so than that commentary. But again, you can dissect this film for long after you watch it, which makes this film feel a lot more layered and it feels a lot more deep. Like this is a movie that really had something going for it in a lot of different ways. It's just fun to watch. It looks good. It says something. Everybody who watches this film might get a little bit more out of it. But getting into the things I didn't like about this film, as much as I've already talked about how artistic it is, how chaotic, I keep using that word. The reason I say that is this movie is kind of edited like TikTok the movie. It's for very short attention spans, Very sharp cuts, a lot of intense zooms, so many social media references, Instagram, Snapchat, TikTok, all of these type of things, a ton of emojis. If you've seen one of these type of films that does that editing format, splices clips together very fast, and you don't like that format, you'll probably hate this film, because that's all it is. It's edited to be so clunky, so fast put together. It's one of those films that just moves really fast with its editing style, a ton of bold colors, a ton of weird transitions. And I'm pretty young myself, but these editing tricks get old for me quick as well. So if you're one of these people who doesn't really love that style, it gets old really quick, avoid this one like the plague, because that's all this film is. And I would be lying if I said it didn't start getting a little bit old on me towards the end. But the biggest gripe I have with this film is you spend so much time with these characters and they're all unlikable. Have you ever heard that phrase, that guy is a punchable face? This movie is composed of about 10 characters that all have the most punchable face you have ever seen. You're sitting there the whole time just like, I fucking hate these people. Because these people are the most socially awkward, narcissistic, asshole characters that are just permanently online. They are all equally loathable. So there's really nobody to root for in this film. When bad things start happening and you're supposed to take sides and see who can get out of it and who can make something of the situation, you kind of just want them all to fail equally, because these people are all chronically annoying, and that's just something I will never root for in a film. You always have to give me at least something to hang on to, a little bit of a morsel of a breadcrumb. I found all these characters to be downright annoying as hell. And it's not lost on me that that's definitely some of the point of this film and some of the commentary and what it's going for with the whole premise of body swapping. But again, as I just said a second ago, you got to give me something to root for. You got to give me some shred of positivity. When you have nothing but annoying characters, I get in that mood as a horror fan. I just want them all to die, and I want them to die fast. That being said, for a Netflix original, this movie is still definitely surprising to me. There's something here. If you like original party movies, you like a new spin on the genre I've already described, it has decent acting, but the characters are absolutely despisable. Kind of funny at points. The editing is wonky, chaotic, but it's also kind of over the top at points. This whole movie is just over the top. This is TikTok the movie, but I also found it oddly fun and entertaining, so take that for what you will. I definitely think you could do worse. Strange review, I know, but I don't really know how else to describe this thing. Have you heard of or seen this movie? It's What's Inside. Comment down below, let me know. Or let me know an actual surprising Netflix original you've seen. Haven't been doing too well on that front recently. As always, if you haven't subscribed, join me down below, but that's all I got in this video. Peace!